Howdy, kids. How we doing? So, by the way, that was Andy Thorne, and the little intro was from Ace Up Mountain. And I just want to bring up Andy Thorne because he is a YouTuber who I believe lives in the deeper hills, mountains really, of West Virginia. And he wakes up every morning and he plays the banjo and he serenades foxes in the area, and they're really cute videos, so I'll try to link them. Anyhow, I'm gonna read a little bit from a great article I just found. It's available at ospreypublishing.com, and the words come from Corporal Joseph Asher Lombard, formerly of the 147th Pennsylvania, who delivered a keynote address on a 20th anniversary of the battle. So I'm gonna skip in just a little bit, and here we go. Not only had the July 3rd fight at Culp's Hill produced Gettysburg's most harrowing combat, but according to him, it was also the most consequential action of the 3 days. And, you know, people will argue about this, but I think there's a good argument for it, and we'll get into that. And I've mentioned it before, pretty much the same points. But at Culp's Hill, Army of Northern Virginia possessed its best opportunity of driving the Union troops from their defensive positions. Had the rebels been successful, they would have overrun Culp's Hill, carried the Baltimore Pike, being a really big point because that was the Union's main supply line. They would have carried the Baltimore Pike and forced the Army of the Potomac to retreat by outflanking them. Of course, because as we know, that was the Union's right flank. Culp's Hill, claimed Lombard, the scales of victory had reached their slimmest margin of error, and for that reason the nation needed to show gratitude to soldiers who wore the star, a reference to the 12th Corps' unique star-shaped identification badge. So that's why you see so many star monuments around here. And we'll try to get up to the hill, but I want to just kind of drive slowly because it's a beautiful morning out here. Let's see. Surely everyone in the audience agreed with Lombard's words. The 12th Corps veterans felt immense pride in what they had accomplished on the morning of the 3rd, and at his point in their lives, the jealousy defended that pride to the American public. In their opinion, another sector of the battlefield was already receiving undue attention: Pickett's charge. For the past 20 years, amateur historians and newspapermen, including Edward Pollard, Charles C. Coffin, and William Swinton, had focused the nation's attention to July 3rd's afternoon engagement, the grand attack made by George Pickett, Johnson Pettigrew, and Isaac Trimble's divisions against the Union center. Already, military artists including James Walker and Peter Rothermel had completed grand canvas paintings of Pickett's charge, lofting it deeper into the memories of Americans. Thus, in 2 decades after the war, Pickett's charge became the climax of Gettysburg's story, and it remained that way for the next 100 years. Perhaps even today, most Americans still believe Pickett's charge represented the battle's climax. And I guess that's about it, all I wanted to go over. You know, there's some really good points made here. And I'd like to get back to the movie Gettysburg, because once again, that movie, in recent years, you know, in the past 20 years, which really is no grand scale of time, but to those living today, you know, the movie Gettysburg has really had a pretty profound impact on the way Americans today, you know, recent generations, view the battle. And again, I'm not here to bash the movie. There's a lot said for, you know, how much it you know, brought the Battle of Gettysburg back into the American consciousness. And, you know, that's really a good thing, of course. The downside is, you know, like all, let's say, you know, fact-based stories, it focuses attention on certain aspects which may or may not really deserve all the acclaim that they have received. And I don't want to get into the, you know, that debate anymore, but I will say that Culp's Hill was very important. Again, it was the right flank, the far right flank for the Union. Of course, as we know, the far left flank got lots of attention in the film over at Little Round Top. But as I've mentioned before, this was a pivotal anchor of the line, perhaps more pivotal than the Union's left flank, because again, the Baltimore Pike was the main supply line, far and away the main supply line for the Union, and it would have been a double win if the Confederates carried, if Ewell carried Culp's Hill and was victorious here, because they would have been able to slowly, perhaps, roll up the flank, as they call it, and put the rest of the Union positions in the air, as they say. And they also would have secured the Union's main supply line, which have caused tremendous difficulty. One other point I'd like to make here at Culp's Hill, and I've made it before, was that day 3, okay, so day 2 at Culp's Hill, for those of you who know, really gets most of the attention as far as this general area is concerned, because on day 2, on the evening of the second day, that is when George Sears Green, Pops, as he's lovingly called, repulsed the first Confederate attack on Culp's Hill, thanks to his wisdom in erecting earthworks. And I've got a bit further up to go. I'm kind of turned around. Maybe we can get to his statue, his monument. So in the minds of, I think, a lot of people, when they think of Culp's Hill, they think of the evening of the second day and George Sears Green. And, you know, not to take anything away from him, you guys know I'm a big fan of George Sears Green, but day 3 at Culp's Hill really deserves more attention at the same time, because of the reason that it was the longest sustained action during the whole battle. During the whole 3 days, this was the longest fight here in the morning time on the 3rd day at Culp's Hill. Depending on sources that you read, it lasted between 5 and 7 hours. Now, 7 hours is kind of the most accepted answer to this, but you have to imagine that most historians who come to this conclusion are including an hour or two of perhaps modest skirmishing, you know, in the beginning and in the tail end of Ewell's charge on the 3rd day, right? There were certainly 5 intense hours of combat, and some of the toughest combat of the whole battle. But getting back to the article, sorry, it's really tough to drive and to look out for cars behind me, and to navigate other things here. But Corporal, I think it was Corporal Lombard, he referenced 5 solid hours of fighting. He didn't say anything about 7 hours. He mentioned that there were 5 uninterrupted hours of fighting up here at Culp's Hill. However you look at it, it was surely the longest sustained action here at the Battle of Gettysburg. All right, and I'm almost there. If I hurry, I can give you a quick shot of Pops. We can say hi to Pops. Still not at the top of the hill. Might have to cut it short, guys. Maybe we'll do another video up here Maybe not, we'll see. I don't think I'm gonna get to him quite in time. I've got a little further to go, and I don't want to speed through the park, because that's a big no-no. We don't do that around here. Yeah, guys, I'm gonna have to cut it off. I will see you on the next one. Maybe we'll say hi to Pops in a little bit. Later.